Greetings and welcome. Today, we're going to break down a pretty influential piece of online analysis. It's one that draws a really direct line from a reported event all the way over in Venezuela to what could happen in Iran. So let's just dive right in.
So the whole idea here, the thing we're looking at today, it kicks off with a really provocative question. Can something that happens 7,000 miles away actually shape Iran's future? The source argues, yeah, absolutely. It's basically saying one event can create a blueprint for another.
All right, so the whole argument starts with this really startling claim. The source says that U.S. Delta Force operatives went into Venezuela and toppled President Maduro's government. And get this, they did it in under an hour. This is the hook, the thing that sets the stage for everything else.
And it's not just a vague claim, right? The source gets super specific. It talks about targeting President Maduro and his government using U.S. Delta Force and the whole thing being done in less than an hour. They even say Maduro and his wife were captured and flown to the U.S. for trial, with minimal U.S. casualties. See, laying out all these dramatic details is key. It's meant to create this picture of a swift, successful, externally backed operation. It's the precedent.
Okay, so once that Venezuelan story is on the table, the analysis immediately pivots. It shifts gears right over to what's happening inside Iran, framing the current situation as a really critical moment, a real flashpoint. And to paint a picture of just how tense this flashpoint is, the source uses this incredibly powerful quote. It says, Khomeini came out of his mouse hole and gave the green light to his hyenas to attack the people. So the argument here is that a recent speech wasn't just politics as usual. It was a direct order for a violent crackdown on the protests.
And to back that up, to put a number on it, the speaker points to local reports claiming that 11 people were killed in the city of Malek Shahi alone right after that speech. Using a specific number like that, it's meant to drive home the point that things are escalating, and fast.
So, with all this happening, the source doesn't just stop at describing the chaos. It goes a step further and points to what it calls a strategic plan for protest. And this plan, it says, comes directly from Prince Reza Pahlavi.
So what is this strategy? Well, it's basically a three-step plan. First, mass mobilization. Get people out on the streets in all the major cities like Mashhad, Isfahan, and Tabriz. Second, focus all that energy on the capital, on Tehran. And third, the divide and conquer part. The idea is to spread the security forces so thin across the country that they just can't focus their power in any one place. It's designed to overwhelm them. And there's another, much sharper side to this strategy. The source highlights this direct warning it says Prince Reza Pahlavi gave to security forces. There will be no mercy. We will find you one by one the day after this country's liberation. I mean, that's a pretty clear message, right? It's saying there's no amnesty, no hiding for those who fire on protesters. Accountability will be personal. Okay, so after laying out the internal strategy, the analysis zooms out. It widens the lens to the international stage. The argument here is that this isn't just about protests on the ground. No, it's about global geopolitics, specifically the energy market, and how that could play an absolutely decisive role. And at the very heart of this international piece of the puzzle is one key strategic goal. Hit the regime where it hurts the most, its oil sales. The idea is simple, really. If you can cut off their main source of cash, you critically weaken them.
So how would that even work? Well, the source breaks down this whole China-Venezuela oil connection. The premise is that China is Iran's #1 customer, buying up to 85% of its oil. So the U.S. makes a strategic move. It allegedly lets the new pro-U.S. government in Venezuela sell oil to China. What does that do? Suddenly, China doesn't need Iranian oil anymore. And just like that, the Iranian government loses its most important economic lifeline. It's basically pulling the economic rug right out from under them.
But what does external support actually mean here? The speaker is pretty clear that a full-on Venezuela-style invasion of Iran is unlikely. That's not the goal. Instead, the ideal scenario they present is a mix of things. We're talking limited strikes on security HQs, providing unrestricted internet access like Starlink, and just applying intense diplomatic pressure. So it's targeted support for the internal movement, not a massive foreign intervention.
And that brings us to the end. But the analysis doesn't finish with cold, hard strategy. It ends with a really powerful emotional appeal. It's a call to shift the entire mindset, the whole psychology of the protest movement.
Yeah, look at this. The argument is a shift from mourning, grief, and sadness to sacred rage, a raging flood, and action. The source says this is not the time to mourn the dead. It's time to channel all that grief, all that sadness, into what it calls a sacred rage, a force so powerful it can act like a flood and just sweep the regime away.
And this is the final call to action.
It invokes the memory of martyrs, naming people like Kian and Nika and all the others. The message is that the blood of those who have been lost must bear fruit. It's framing continued, decisive action as the only way forward, the only way to make sure their sacrifice meant something.
So there you have it. We've just walked through the core arguments of this piece of analysis. It connects a pretty dramatic, alleged event in another country to a very specific blueprint for change in Iran, and it all wraps up with this intense, emotional call to arms. The source offers a specific path forward. So now, we want to hear from you. What are your opinions about the arguments you've heard?
Please support the channel. The support link is provided in the description. Gratitude for your companionship.